you, Kim, when you started coaching? Let's talk forecheck.
Let's talk forecheck. I think I started at U15 AA. So I started in a 2-1-2. Strategically, for a couple of reasons. One, I had a bunch of A players I was promoting, so didn't have any kind of top end skill. And female players tend to struggle under hard puck pressure. So our strategy was to get in there hard and look to create turnovers and maybe get ugly goals like what I scored my entire career. As I moved up to coaching higher level teams and older teams and started to attract better levels of talent, I leaned more on the 1-2-2 because I like the structure when you recover the puck in the 1-2-2 a lot better in terms of transitioning to offense. I've always had question marks about the strong side pinch. It's a bit scary, again, because the girls are so literal. They'll there'll be no one covering up top. And, often you'll see three players on the hash marks and we get the puck, but what are you going to do now? There's six people holding hands. There's nowhere to go. But then, the hybrid model of a 1-2-2 that sometimes becomes a 2-1-2 that sometimes goes back. That's where I ended up. But I always liked the 1-2-2 because it forced our opponent to make actual plays to break out. Because we were right there, we're above the puck, we're stalking you, we're waiting. What are you going to do next? So yeah, it's not, they go D to D. If you float the box across, you're fine. If you can rotate the pistons fast enough, you're fine. But I always started with a 1-2-2 my last couple of years of junior, and trusted that the other team's skill and maybe team play wasn't quite at the level to break that more passive pressure. But I just like it better offensively for what it gets you once you get the little black thing back. So yeah, that's how I ended up. But I just sent you guys my playbook for U9B, so I need some help here. If you guys, this is hot off the press, but it sure looks like a 1-2-2. Your little claw there, Wally.
Yeah.
Sure looks like a 1-2-2 to me. So that's getting launched tonight. Our first game's on Sunday, so think happy thoughts.
Yeah. Now I've got a question here for Greg. Greg, we've been brought up on teaching defense first. And I ask coaches now, how do they start when they build a team? And I automatically, first few practices, D-zone cover. And I followed it up with moving up the ice. From D-zone is the breakout transition, reactive, intuitive to the situation, and then different kinds of attacks, direct attacks. So that's the sequence, but it starts with defensive zone, and then because you got to play games whole ice sooner than later with a new group of people, forecheck. And at the youngest age levels, I still advocate the 1-2-2 and that claw because it gets the picture where they'll spread out enough to see, read, and act, think where they could go at a young age. Craig, in your work, I'm wondering about, you take on teams, do you even think about that stuff and let it, or are we spending too much time on it?
So I journal all my practices, so I can go back and tell you exactly what I did and when I did it. I do a lot of what you're talking about kind of in a chalk talk. So we do practice on Tuesday and Thursday, and then Wednesday we do film, chalk talk, hockey talk, life university, just whatever, and then lift afterwards. So I talk on a lot of this stuff off the ice, and then we'll put them in situations that they're doing it on ice rather than kind of going through a progression like that. First 2 weeks, I always do just as many puck touches, weird skating as possible. And I'm a big fan of skating drills with pucks, so puck-centered skating. So I have a drill called passing chaos. So it's all about looking and passing. So passing chaos, absolutely vital. So I'm always trying to get them back to feeling normal and feeling like, okay, this is a natural feeling of playing the game. Once I start getting into actual gameplay situations, like I don't have a defined forecheck. I know Al Ramsey's talked about this. I've got the dog on it. Someone's going after the puck. Then I've got the fox just kind of feeling it out, and then the eagle above top. So it's less on 1-2-2 or 2-1-2, whatever you need to accomplish your goal, go for it on that kind of stuff. And then I do a lot of like soccer rondo type drills, and that works its way into penalty kill / power play rather than just going like straight towards it. So I approach every like system from a very concept heavy base and very flexible. The only thing I really ask for is F2 hard to the net and our weak side winger slants across the ice. Other than that, it's very fluid on what you can and cannot do based on the roles and responsibilities, which usually is a shock for players for the first month until they figure it out, and then we tactically dominate. Whether our skills available or not, different question, but from a tactic standpoint, usually we're much better.
I mean, this may seem strange, it may seem simple, but Kim, the only time you really 1-2-2 is on a change, or maybe a dump in, maybe. But usually when you dump it in, you're changing. And that means you come out of the box first, second, third. And that's why the shape of where am I going to go if I'm first is obvious. I'm pressuring, I'm steering. Where's 2 and 3 going to go? Once you get possession after that, on direct attack, you follow through with 2-1-2. You don't think 1-2-2. So the only time, and this is in my mind, the only time you start out is when you change and you don't dump it in forecheck anymore, you dump it in and change. So I don't know if this makes sense or not, Kim, but the 1-2-2 is huge because when I worked with U8s trying to learn whole ice hockey before the rule change, they just swarmed. Like you could put an umbrella over all 5 players. But once we introduced this claw, they cut the ice in half. They were spread out, and they were able to think first, second, third, 1, 2, 3. If you can count to 3, you can play the game. So you get out of this right winger, left winger, center mentality, which is robotic. But to me, relative to the forecheck, I even look at, okay, you got this torpedo. Well, that's basically a 2-2-1 when you're really aggressive. And it would be the offensive defenseman who would be up more than the other one. And I think the way the game's going, both sides are going to be offensive. I don't know if the pairings in the NHL are typically one defensive D and one obviously offensive D. But the game that's evolving, I think, is really the interchangeability. But when kids grow up to think the game, and you learn to think without the puck in terms of where you should go, and possessing it is more important because when you have it, they can't do anything with it, but they got to try to get it back. So, as we talked about earlier, its transition is the game within the game. Greg?
So, Wally, I've got a few points to follow up on that, and then I'll shut up because I feel like I'm talking too much here for the group. Like all of my drills nowadays, I have 0 cones that we ever go around. There may be some general markings I ask them to like consider, but I find like all of my drills, all I'm trying to do is find drills or or more activities. Drills are a bad name, but activities where they have to read off of each other in order to progress the drill. Like no whistles. Like the less whistles I can use, the better. If they can just look at each other and start it or make it continuous, I think that's massive. And then any kind of like interchangeability where you have to change with someone. So kind of like that earlier drill we were talking about, where 2-on-2 low and you have to activate the 1-on-1 high into the zone. Those are absolutely massive. And I think that's also how we get away from like creating practice players where they look phenomenal in practice, but as soon as you pump them in a game, they're absolutely terrible and their skill set almost like falls apart because they know like the solution, but they don't know the process to find the solution, rather than practicing like how do we get to a solution and practicing those. So it's like repetition without the repetitiveness. I feel like that's where I try to go with it. I'm curious to see where everyone else tries to go if you're trying to create, whether it be positionless or just like teammates working together and teams that are able to be fluid in a very chaotic game.
Well, I'll share a bit of my experience so far in my new coaching career with U9 players, because it's new every day. So we have gotten, January 15th, we switched to full ice. So this Sunday we switch. Up until this point, we've had no positions, but the majority of the teams we have played against have positions. So because you share the bench with the other coach, right? So you can hear them say, okay, you're a D this shift, or forwards, you're double shifting. And we've had like none of that. Like no, we haven't even used those words. We are not going out of the door like that. So it's interesting just observing that we're the only group that I've seen, because I'm on the bench with the other team's coach, that's gone completely positionless, and have really emphasized just skill and some basic structure. So essentially what we've done is wherever the puck has been when it's 4-on-4, we send 2 hunters. Now that was essential in the beginning because we were behind skill-wise of everybody. And really the only way we were going to possess the puck was like overwhelm them. And so in the beginning, we like sent 2 hard and ended up with a lot of pucks. And then we would like not have the skating skill to get away from that one person we just overwhelmed, but it was, at least we had the little black thing. What happened, of course, is our skills went up. So then the second player was kind of in the way. Like the first player would go hunt, and then the other girl was right there, and there's like, oh, you're too close. Like, no, we can't do anything. So we had 2 hunters. That's what we started with. We played probably our first 4 or 5 games. Like that was our entire tactical play, was we have 2 hunters, and if you get the little black thing, just skate it. Get open and get down the ice and try to score a goal. That was it. And it didn't look a lot like hockey, but it was, I think, emphasizing the right things. Then we added a home player, which you might argue is a defenseman. And then I didn't even know what to do with the 4th kid. I was like, I have 2 hunters in a home when we don't have the puck. The other one just like, go where you think. And then when we had the puck, we had a skater. We had her backpack. I've talked about that before. The player who's like, we started with her actually being behind the other player because we knew our skater wasn't good enough to get around anyone for the most part. So she'd run into somebody on the other team and the puck would pop out and then our backpack would get it. And I would say we probably scored 15 goals 4-on-4 where the puck went directly to the backpack and she just skated around and got a free-for-all shot. So that was all we had up until like very, very recently. And now we're going to what I just sent you guys in the attachments here, but we're going to the claw. But we've established that everybody hunts. We've established, that whoever gets the puck is a skater. And so it's really interesting. Some teams, even a couple teams had this, never seen it, but they'd have 2 defensemen that would not leave their half of the ice in 4-on-4. Like you can imagine, it's like we always had a 4-on-2. And we sometimes gave up 2-on-0 breakaways, but like they had 2 kids who wouldn't leave their half of the half and 2 forwards who would not come onto the defensive side of the half. And I was like, this is strange. But again, they're obviously getting ready for full ice hockey, which so many of these guys, and no offense, gentlemen, I've been mansplained hockey since September by these fellows from the other team so far. Like, it's amazing the things that people have said to me. Which is great, like very fascinating. But anyways, they're all like, I can't wait till we get to real hockey. And I'm like, oh, really? Tell me more. Like playing dumb. Like, oh, it's going to be so much better. I'm like, it is not. Like, I know, guys, I know exactly what's going to happen on Sunday. We have 6 kids who can really skate and handle the puck. And I will be watching those 6 kids play hockey for the next couple of weeks until everyone gets, and I can tell you who the 5 kids on every other team are. These are the kids I'm going to be watching play hockey for the next little while. It's not great. I don't think we should actually be going full ice. I see no value in it. Like, none. We can go next year, or like when you move up to U11 in the girls here in Ontario. I see zero value in it. So I'm actually not excited about it, and therefore trying to be as positionless as possible, because I just don't see how putting these small humans on a football field to play hockey is beneficial to their individual development. Other than, I guess, they're going to be more fit because they have to skate further. I don't know. But it has been really interesting, and I'm curious. Even our head coach, who I'm not the head coach, but I basically plan everything. So I just don't do any of the admin stuff I did for 15 years. He's like, oh, what if we give up breakaways? Like, the goalies are going to get like 3-on-0s. I'm like, yep, for sure they will. Absolutely, they will. We will be in the wrong place. So even though we've adopted this structure all year and we went from being the worst team, I think we won. I don't know how you win on half ice hockey, but we won the little half ice hockey games, like our last 3 games. And we were by far the worst team at the beginning of the year. So I don't know, it seemed to be working so far, but the parents are like, when's my daughter going to get her position? And the kids are like, what, am I going to be a defense? I'm like, it's so fascinating. Like, they need, and if I can't pull it off, guys, if I can't pull off selling positionless hockey to this group, I don't know if anyone can do it, because I have enough street cred that I should be able to do whatever the heck I want with this crew, and no one should bat an eye. But I have no intention of doing much more than what I sent you guys. Zero. That's it. That's the whole playbook, other than maybe an attack triangle. So anyways, I've talked long enough. Mike?
No, Kim, I sent you a text, or an email or something. But Brant Berglund, who was the video coach for the Boston Bruins for a long time, I think he works with the NHL now. A long time ago. It's a long time ago now. But he had this whole theory about the ballad of the lonely D-men in half ice and cross ice hockey, and this need for coaches to always have a defensive player. And his point, and I think is valid, was that it's usually the kid that needs the most touches of the puck that ends up being the person that stands there waiting for the puck. Because you're like, okay, how can I put this kid in a place and hide him where the puck has to come to him or her, and they don't need to make decisions, which causes them never to have to make decisions. So if your goal is to develop the kids and the players, I would hope that at 7 and 8 years old, that is a major goal, then it doesn't make sense to start putting players in, okay, you can't go over the midline because now you're no longer a defenseman, and vice versa. And we can't get fast breaks because, and I definitely hear you on the, this is not, when we're playing real hockey, we have to do this. I go, well, the real hockey I saw at 10U ain't real hockey either. One kid going down the ice and scoring is, unless you're, I guess Connor McDavid makes us all look bad, right? But that's not real hockey either. That's not real. So I think that's what but everybody falls to that denominator that, well, look at Connor Bedard. I was joking in the World Championship. My 9-year-old and I were watching the game, and I go, so what do you think the strategy here is in overtime? He goes, I don't know, just put Connor Bedard out again. He goes, I don't think he got off I don't think he even got off the ice in overtime. So it almost makes but everybody thinks their kid is Connor Bedard, right? So it's well, that's not real hockey either. That one person dominating for a 7-minute portion of the game is not real. It happens, but for all of the rest of us, we have to learn that players have to come in, players have to go out, players have to fill lanes, players have to fill areas of the ice and get open. And I think that I know in the U.S. and when we've been selling the ADM and cross ice hockey, that's one of I think the biggest missteps we made was not identifying it as right at the beginning age appropriate hockey for that age group. We automatically had people think, well, we're just not giving them as much ice as they need. No, we're giving them the ice. We actually are giving them the amount of ice that they need. And for some reason, I don't know why it is, because I never hear it in baseball. I don't hear it in lacrosse, and I don't hear it in soccer, that a little 9-year-old isn't playing in an MLS soccer net. I never hear anybody complaining. Like if we ever put a kid in that net, they'd be like, "What are you, insane? Like, this is the stupidest thing in the world. Every shot is a goal." And I don't know why the leap to hockey hasn't made it. It's an interesting subject, because I've coached lacrosse for 9 years, and I've never ever had a problem with U10, U9, U8 lacrosse playing small field, half field, small nets on a smaller surface. It's never come up. So it's
like
just an odd thing.
we had coaches complaining when we had the small nets out for our 4-on-4. Like, we had the
age
option.
appropriate nets.
Yeah. They'd be mad. I'm like why? Like, but then
who's it benefiting? Except the kid that can flip the puck higher than the goalie's shoulder.
Yeah, but this is again, I had a coaches meeting with the other coaches, and they're all great, and they have coached, for years. Most of them. We have 6 coaches who have coached for longer than 3 years, so it's like a pretty good group. But we're talking about what we're going to call the lions, which is the bottom of the claw, which you might argue are the defensemen. When you, like you said, Wally, when you line up for the face-off or when you change, the lions are at the bottom. Okay, so the debate was, well, do the lions get to hunt? I'm like, yeah, of course they get to hunt. They're like, well, if the puck's at the hash marks, is the lion going to go? I'm like, if she's the closest one, she's going. And they're like, well, what if we give up a one-on-one? Or I'm like, first of all, I don't know about you guys, but our 7 and 8-year-olds and my 6-year-old daughter, their ability to skate backwards relative to everyone else's ability to skate forwards with the puck, it's not even close. We're a 1 out of 10 on backward skating and a 4 out of 10 on skating with the puck. Nobody is a good backward skater. So why would I want no one skating backwards ever? And the coach is like, what do you mean? We're not going to skate backwards. First of all, they'll never make it. They'll never make it to the other end backwards. There'll be 3 face-offs by the time they get there. We're going to skate forwards and angle and just go right at the girl. And they're like, what if she goes around her? I'm like, well, then that girl has a weight shift in her repertoire. Yay for her. And she will get a breakaway. But it's not going to be better for us to butt wiggle backwards and try. It's just no one has that ability, nor do I want to develop it. That is not a U9 ability in my, we have done some C-cut backward skating, but it's never going to match any of the players' forwards ability to skate. So they're like, I'm like, yeah, we're going to be giving up breakaways, guys. And we're also going to scare the crap out of some girls and steal pucks in the offensive zone because we're hunting. But I don't know. And as I think about it, I go, that's how if I was coaching junior hockey right now, that's what I would tell my strong side D to do, like they do in the NHL. I told the coaches, I'm like, go watch the NHL. The Ds aren't just backing out. One of them's angling up and surfing over and trying to kill the puck carrier. On occasion, at least, if not always. So, if you want to argue that this isn't real hockey, watch the top level of hockey and tell me what the Ds are doing. Because it looks like they're hunting to me, right? They're always attacking. So, it'll be interesting to see how it goes. But I think then at least if you're positionless, right, then, we're not wasting time really trying to get these Ds to defend one-on-one skating backwards. I just don't. I could be wrong. We'll find out in the next couple of weeks, but I just don't see it working on full ice hockey in any way, shape, or form.
Does that mean we don't teach backwards striding anymore and Mohawk pivots anymore?
Oh, no. I am for sure teaching it, Wally, but it's like, we just started working on backhand shooting. Like,
Yeah.
I'd love a girl to like score on a backhand, but she's like if you look at a curriculum, she's at A, from A to Z on the backhand, right? Like our backward skating is at like B right now, but our forward striding is at like G right now. So is every other team's, right? Like it's just what are the skills to prioritize, right? Striding, turning, stopping. We've just started really pivoting. Like these are, again, I'm starting with a completely blank slate, and I didn't have the benefit of really knowing the skill set of the group because I didn't pick the team. So I quickly identified like what the holes were. And so, yeah, like we might get to see by the end of the year on backward skating. Not to say like we're not going to do it. Of course we're going to teach it because there's a skill curriculum that needs to be taught. But the expectation that they can then take that as a tool to solve a problem is unrealistic, I think. That backward skating is not going to solve a problem of them defending a one-on-one yet. Turning around and angling the girl will solve the problem of defending a one-on-one right now, right? So there's the skills we develop because that's part of the curriculum and the overall athlete development. And then there's the application of those tools to solve a problem in a game, right? And I don't see the backward skating right now solving problems for them, but it's absolutely a skill that will continue to develop. I just don't see it being tactically relevant, at least till U11. And I watch a lot of U11 hockey, which is the next level up. And again, I see defenders, and we have a pretty high level U11 team, 2 of them actually. And again, the backward skating relative to the forward skating ability of every player it's not close. So I would argue I wouldn't want those defenders necessarily defending skating backwards on the strong side either, because they're better. They have a better tool in their toolbox to use. So I would say we let them use the tools that are going to give them the most success in the short term, while slowly building up the tools that they just don't have yet. Like we have to do face-offs this weekend, Wally. Like we haven't had a face-off all year. I'm not going to spend 20 minutes in practice working on how to win a face-off. But like we're going to have to do something when that puck is dropped. Right? So we're at A, and all I'm going to tell them is lift the stick up, and the other 2 come in and get it. I don't know. That's the starting point for me. But it's fun to teach like completely fresh. Like I'm learning a lot in it. It's actually quite fun, and I have no ego in it because my kid's the youngest player on the team. Like I really don't care if we win or lose, like at all. It's like 0% of my DNA cares. So that's I've never coached like that before. Every other time I've coached, of course, you have an ego. Go, oh my God, I'm a junior coach. I'm a provincial team coach. I'm a this coach. I don't want to lose. I can genuinely say I do not care if we lose. I've never had this experience before. It's quite interesting.
But your parents and the man coaches, they want to win.
Oh, I know. For sure they do. For
That's all
sure they do.
Yeah.
But that's
so I say that to appease them, Kim, to appease them, everything you're doing, don't change. But make sure you teach breakaway skating with a puck.
Oh, for
and
sure.
That means pushing it ahead of you, not letting it slow you up by handling it while you carry it. I know that to me is what I call, keeping everybody happy advantage. Teach breakaway skating. Take advantage of your speed with a puck. The best skaters are faster with a puck than without it. And you'll get more scoring, which will allow you to play that way. So that's just the only thing I would offer that when I watched the U13s practice, Tom's team and West Jardines out here, these are the best girls in Calgary at that age. That's the first skill I would have worked on at the first practice I watched. And I made all kinds of comments and provided video for Wes about that skill, because none of them could skate the game forwards and backwards completely, let alone add a puck to it. So, Hal, what do you think about all the conversation? I see you smiling.